I don't even know where to start. I am so excited, Lydia, for you to take your time. I want to give a proper introduction, which I know is not going to be, it's not going to serve as good. I mean, your story is amazing. But for our listeners, I have to say, I am delighted over the moon to introduce my next guest who needs no introduction. Appeared in over 250 TV films, People's Choice Award winner. And I mean, El Paso's Little Miss Cotton. Let's not forget
Oh,
that.
you
But we have so
try
much
to
to
forget that.
cover. But I am speaking with the amazing, legendary Lydia Cornell. Lydia, thank you so much for joining me and taking your time today.
You are the sweetest, Matthew. I have this connection with you that I think it's otherworldly, it's spiritual. There's something about you. You have such a good soul. You have a wonderful spirit and a great soul. And your music. I can't wait to have you on my show to promote you, actually,
Well,
because
I
your
I
music makes
paid
me
you a lot
melt.
of money to say that, but I really appreciate the kind words. It's funny, it's funny you mentioned spiritual. It's so interesting. Like when I read, we have so much to dive into, but when I read your biography, like anyone who takes time to read your story and your biography, you talk about spirituality a lot. Like you talk about, and I want to get there, but I so appreciate well, let's just get right into this, Lydia, because for people that don't know, so you grew up in El Paso, Texas. What was
Mhm.
it like growing up in the mid? I'm from South Dakota, so I'm north,
Oh, you
but
are?
yeah. So what was it like growing up in El Paso?
Well, first, let me go back to that spiritual quote because
Yes.
pain, I've learned in the 12-step program, pain is the touchstone of all spiritual progress.
Mm,
And it's like a lot of people who've gone through really tragic childhoods or hardship have either come out better or worse. Or,
yes.
they either emulate the person that abused them or they become the kinder person. And I was so lucky that I learned my lesson, learned from. Anyway, I was raised by a very oh my goodness. I love El Paso, Texas, because I got to speak Spanish fluently. Viví en El Paso, Texas, junto a Juárez por 13 años. Acá aprendí español desde niña edad. I like to show off a little Spanish
I
every
love
time
it.
I'm on.
Talk as much as well. That's
I
so
do it
cool.
everywhere I go. My boyfriend goes, "Do you have to speak Spanish to every waiter and but it's my favorite language because it's the Romance language that I learned. And I read Don Quixote in Spanish and Galdós, Doña Perfecta. But anyway, it was an odd place to grow up. Um, it's interesting. My father he fled the Bolshevik Revolution as an 8-year-old boy with his family. His father was an admiral in the Tsar Imperial Navy, and they fled to Shanghai. And they hated immigrants there too. Everywhere you go, they hate immigrants in every single part of the world for some bizarre reason. And they were white Russians growing up in the diaspora. And my father had an older brother who died when they got there,
Mm.
and a younger brother and a younger sister. And apparently there was a white slave trade going on for the women.
Oh
So
wow.
they had to sacrifice their daughters to earn money as taxi dancers for escort services because the British they took over China at the time. And then when the rape of Nanking happened, when Japan invaded, um, my father had been admitted to a music school. He was a violinist in Shanghai. He grew up there, and he was 21, and he was getting into this great American music school. Oh gosh, don't tell me. I know the name of it. Phillips, I think. And the minute he was excited he was going to come to America, and the Japanese invaded, and it took 10 more years to get out of there.
Mm.
And luckily, if he'd come any earlier, I wouldn't have been born. But isn't it interesting how one turn of a corner could change your whole life?
The lottery of life.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
One in a million chance. I mean,
Yeah. And you're a musician, so I connect with you. I came from a very musical family. I'm the only one who didn't inherit the musical gene. I'm
well, you
like,
say that, but you played violin, right? And you played a little piano, and
yeah.
didn't even your brother? I know we've talked about. I know you've talked about your, late brother Paul, but didn't he
Yeah.
play music as well?
Oh,
And
yes, he was a pianist, a concert pianist. And that's why I feel a connection with you because this is a very, I lost him the first year I got sober. But
1995, was that right?
yeah. and I got sober in 94. I had a brand new baby. I just told this whole story. Um, we do a lot of recovery work with younger people and people that are depressed and suicidal, and it's a great program for just helping lift people up and
Yeah.
telling them how to get through life without, you know, without falling apart, basically. But it was so interesting. I'm so fascinated now with my father's story. I've been investigating it and researching it because the book I'm writing, I didn't have that story in it before this past year. I found out
Is
more
still
and
the
more and more.
plan? Is that that book?
No, no, no. I'm writing a book that I probably shouldn't say the title. It's called Hiding My Brain in My Bra.
That's, hey,
And
they
I
never
write
say judge a
classic.
book by its cover, but that one's gonna sell, Lydia. I mean, just the title.
The title is so ridiculous.
I
But
love it.
it's really my life. It's like, oh my God, I was this smart kid and I had to pretend to be dumb to get along in Hollywood. But I'll tell you about that in a minute. But it was so cool. My father then finally got out of China and he got on the first boat, the boat called the USS Nimitz in
Nimitz.
1947 with Steve Jobs' father, we found out
Oh
later.
my gosh.
And he comes to Berkeley and he starts teaching violin, in California, in San Francisco. And then he went down to Hollywood because he had this dream of going to Hollywood.
Hmm.
And here's this young Russian guy who's very exotic looking, very handsome. I have pictures of him in a white suit in Shanghai. And he met my mother at a Lux radio broadcast recital where he was playing violin. She ran away from home at 16 to from El Paso to live with her aunt Evelyn, who was a shirt maker to the stars. She made shirts for Humphrey Bogart
Oh,
on
that's right.
Hollywood
I heard
Boulevard.
that in an interview. That's right.
Yeah. So then they met at this studio and they swooned over each other. They were both young and in love and starry-eyed and they went to Ciro's. And I just remember looking at a picture of them going, they fell in love and they created me out of that love child. I was the love child, but it wasn't that they were so in love with each other, but they saw in each other the potential for escape. My father saw in my mother, I can, I can get out, I can become a citizen,
Yes.
and
Yes.
then, have an American life. And my mother saw in him, I can get out of that provincial small town of Texas. And ironically, all he wanted to do was be a concertmaster, and he applied for jobs. He was teaching music while they were together. They got married pretty quickly. And he was teaching music, and he applied for a job with the San Antonio Symphony behind her back. And he dragged her back to Texas, and she went, no. And then they ended up, she was pregnant suddenly, and Grandma Myrtle, my mother's mother, begged them to come back to El Paso, and that's how he ended up there, and he became the concertmaster of El Paso Symphony. So she
Unbelievable.
was stuck.
Unbelievable.
It's funny.
You seem to tie a lot and have such a respect for your family, and it's hard not to, when you think of that and you think of her moving away at 16, and we'll get to this story, but you seem to have and have always had, when I read your story, this confidence of, hey, I'm heading to Hollywood. Like, do you ever
Oh,
pull from your ancestry to be like, they did it, or they,
yeah.
man, like that was courageous. Like, have you always had that courage and
Okay, that came
confidence?
from a lot of pain and fear, though. I'll tell you the real truth.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was my God bless my mother. I had a huge forgiveness of her 2 years ago when she passed away, but
Hmm.
she had borderline personality disorder or
Oh my
bipolar, they
gosh.
called it. And we didn't know. But I just remember all I did, I went running into her room one day when I was 6 years old. I wanted to be an inventor, an explorer, an astronaut. I didn't know you had to be pretty. And I wrote a poem about being an astronaut, and she was primping in the mirror. I remember this, looking at pictures of Ava Gardner, and she saw me, and I said, "Look at my poem, Mom." And she screamed she actually looked at my hair and went, "Your hair, it's a mess." And tore the poem up, just threw it away, and just
Hmm.
sat me down in the chair. And for like an hour, I remember just being sitting there like a prisoner and having my hair done in ringlets. Like she was constantly fooling with my hair so I looked perfect. And she gave the message, not just unspoken, that you have no value unless you're beautiful. You have no value whatsoever as a woman. And I was taught that early on. I was taught to curtsy to all the older people and to never speak unless spoken to and not have any ideas and never to play outside and do anything that would be tomboyish. But I was a tomboy. And I don't remember even trying, I thought I had to be a girl now? What is this? It was like a trap in a prison. And God bless my mother. I didn't know until recently that she was locked in a closet as a child by her mother
Oh
for
God.
6 days at a time. Her mother
Oh,
didn't like girls. And this is a cultural phenomenon in the 50s. Oh, my mother was born in, wow, 1928. But in those days, see, it was our culture kind of taught it put women in a box, actually. It
yeah.
wasn't really all her fault. You know what I mean? They thought boys had more value, just like in China, in the dining rooms, they didn't think girls were valuable either. Of course, half the world is, you know, every single child comes from a woman, so it's difficult to say they have no value, but
Well, that's exactly right. And
yeah.
you mentioned your mom having borderline personality disorder, and it seems like that's a very complex um, disorder with a lot of variations, and not something that's necessarily the little that I know and have heard about it. How did you survive that, where it seems like there's a lot of hot and cold with that disorder
Well, I
specifically?
had a really vivid imagination, and I still had secret villages in town. I was a skateboard addict,
Yeah.
little girl, and I had a secret village called Garageville where I would disappear, and I had a secret garden and all that. But I remember this is very weird. I remember being able to go into an altered state.
Hmm.
And I was talking about that, going, where did that come from? I remember being able to float above the room and remove myself from any kind of uncomfortable or abusive situation and literally float around. Even in church services, I would just not, I would go numb and I would go above the room and I would float around. It was weird. I could go into an altered
Wow.
state. Later, I used alcohol to do that, but
Yeah, later a substance might have helped it here and there, but
yeah, and it was
wow.
really weird. And the fame drug, I thought if I can become famous, see, I couldn't get unconditional love at home.
Hmm.
So I sought the adoration of strangers. If you can go become big and famous, maybe mom will love me. Maybe she'll notice me. Maybe she'll say you're unique. It was a very unconscious thing at the time, the drive, but it also came from not having a lot of friends in high school because I was born in El Paso, and then my father, as he was still the concertmaster of the symphony, he also started a roofing company, and he
Wow.
had a deep, thick Russian accent, and he wore a 10-gallon cowboy hat, and he became this Russian cowboy. And so his partner swindled him out of 200 homes they were doing.
Oh man.
And my dad was so upset he had to declare bankruptcy and he wouldn't do it. And
Hmm.
he had lots of wonderful Mexican laborers. Everyone we loved was Mexican. I love Mexican food. We had this kind of nice home. And on the surface, everything was perfect looking. And no one knew inside the home. I wasn't allowed to have feelings or talk about my fears, or you weren't allowed to really ever have a real authentic feeling. So I play acted. I had a theater company in the backyard. Dad loved it, but I always played the boy in every play. Like
Hmm.
the neighborhood kids would all be girls and they would say, I want to be the princess. And I had to play the prince. So I just wanted to create theater and a land of make-believe. And my first trip to Disneyland cemented that idea that I can run away. I can live a life of make-believe if I become an actress.
Hmm.
I want to be in a Disney movie, Haley Mills at the time was in this Parent Trap and Pollyanna. And you're a lot younger than I am, so you don't remember these movies, but I was obsessed with movies
Lydia, I remember
and escape.
watching you on TV when I was a kid. I mean, you talk about that validation. I think we all have that validation, right? Like we all have that want and that need. But your story is like on steroids of like, because I know we could get to well, share if you can you share with the listeners, okay, you're graduate of the University of Colorado Boulder, and you're so diverse in so many things, whether it's English, business, this, you're, writing books, you're doing this, um, but you moved to Hollywood, and how can you tell the story how you first, I think you snuck into a movie set and then there you were, like, it's kind of
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's a great story.
Okay, so after I graduated college, and I knew I had to graduate. And my parents kept thinking, I wanted to get a degree in acting. And they go, what? In high school, I had one gay friend, Monroe, and we were
Okay.
in every play together. And I wanted to be Jewish in the worst way. We were in Scarsdale. We moved from El Paso to Scarsdale, the wealthiest community in the East Coast, because my dad got this sudden job offer from an old childhood friend that came out of nowhere. And it was from my mother's first. My mother had a beautiful side to her, believe it or not. She really was a lovely soul and a feminist. And my great great grandmother was Harriet Beecher Stowe. Her
Author of
father,
Uncle
my
Tom's
mom,
Cabin. That is an
yeah,
amazing connection too. Like it's
yeah.
so
And my mother's father, his name was Henry Ward Beecher Stowe, and he was kind of a sweet dandy, and Myrtle was that whole dynamic is something I'll eventually look at. But the best person, my favorite role model was my great grandmother on the other side that I knew personally till I was 10 years old,
wow,
Callie Fairley. She was the first vice cop in the Wild West, in the west of Texas, Southwest Texas. Out of 50 men in the police department, she was the only woman,
that's
a
awesome.
vice detective.
That's
I have
awesome.
pictures of her with all the cops.
That's
And
awesome.
she had a tragically strange beginning, but was so determined. And she ran across railroad tracks with both babies in her arm and, had to run away from a husband who was abusive and, alcoholic. And she went to her mother's house to beg for help. And her mom would not let her in. She said, I will not let a divorced woman cross my threshold. That is not a Christian woman. And she slammed the door in Callie's face with two babies. And Callie just went on the next train, got to El
Oh
Paso,
my God.
became a cook in a convalescent home, and then married a man who died in the Muscle Shoals, Alabama project. Died of the 1918 flu, and then grandma had to earn money to support the daughters. In those days, women couldn't vote or anything. Oh, yeah, they got the right to vote in 1920. So she ended up applying at the police department and got this job as a cop and had to bust prostitutes.
Oh my
And
God.
my mother remembers strange children living with them
Hmm.
because Grandma Crowley Fairley would bring kids home, the prostitutes' kids, while the prostitute was in jail to live with my mom and her brothers. So it was a very interesting El Paso upbringing. But anyway, I know that's a long story to get to the real point.
No, this is great. This does get to the real point. It's such the background. I know you had like in Colorado, I know you had met a lot of bands and were working out there
Oh
too, but
God.
like
Yeah.
Hollywood, like, I love the Hollywood story, but I'm always trying to whenever I hear the story, and I lived in Burbank for a couple of years. I worked at Access Hollywood, the television show for 2 years,
Oh,
way back,
really?
way back.
Gosh.
And I always was like, what was the moment? Like, what was the moment where you're like, that's what made me break through?
Oh my gosh, it's so weird. It was a series of coincidences that are really bizarre.
Yeah.
And all I can think of is that I had an intention. I set my intention to break into Hollywood, not knowing anything about how to do this. But
Wow.
I could not quit college. I had to get the degree in business. Couldn't do math or accounting at all. And here I get a business degree. But through that, I was the lecturer. I got all the people to come speak at the business college, and I figured, oh, I'm going to get Barry Fay, the big concert promoter in Denver, and Chuck Morris, who owns Tuagi's on the Hill, a club, because I got to meet Joni Mitchell and Billy Joel when got up to Caribou. But I wanted to break into Caribou so badly because I thought if I can't be an actress, I will break in the music industry and I'll try to get a job as a manager of bands
Yes.
and I'll try to discover a band. I didn't know women weren't allowed to do these things, by the way. It didn't dawn on me, to be
But it
honest.
didn't stop you either. You were
No, it didn't
confident.
stop.
You're like, I'm going.
I don't know where this confidence came from because it was just determination to be bigger than life, probably to make them, probably to get that love I didn't get at home.
Mm.
It
Mm.
was a subconscious drive, but so I couldn't get into Caribou Ranch. It's this very exclusive recording studio in Netherlands, a few thousand feet above sea level, above Boulder. I tried to break in and the guard gate they wouldn't let me in. So I go back to the business college and I go, hey, I'll invite these promoters. Serendipitously, after they spoke, they said, do you want to come have dinner with us at the Red Lion Inn? I said, sure. We go to have dinner there, and there's the owner of Caribou Ranch.
Yeah.
He comes over and says, have you been to the ranch? I went, no. You want to work there? Yes. So I got a job there.
Awesome.
And my first big gig was picking up Billy Joel at the airport, and I crashed his entire band into a snowbank. And then I got fired. And then Billy fought for me and got my job back. And then Joni
He
Mitchell, I
did?
picked her up. Yes, it was, oh my God, I was in heaven. Joni Mitchell was I was obsessed with the album Blue.
Yes.
And I get to pick her up at the airport in Denver. I'm driving along. First of all, I didn't know how to drive a four-wheel drive Suburban. I had to teach myself all this on the job, pretending I knew. It was just this gumption I had. And then I pick her up and she puts her guitar next to her, moves over and scoots next to me and touches my knees, touching her knee. And I'm shaking the whole way up, like, I'm with Joni Mitchell.
So
And then
exciting.
talking to me like a mentor, like somebody I could get to know. Then I met the Beach Boys and I got to date Dennis Wilson briefly. And there were some drugs up at the ranch, but I wasn't into drugs. I was kind of a goody goody. And I didn't have any weird nobody really abused me in any way. I was very protected in a strange way.
That's nice.
Even though we wore midriff tops and like
Sure.
landlubber hip hugger jeans and little tiny, it was the 70s. So, but anyway, then I got to be the road manager of Michael Murphy,
That's right.
who wrote the song Wildfire, beautiful song.
That's right.
And that got me out to Hollywood. So I was like sideways into Hollywood. Get out to Hollywood and working for Epic Records. And then I hear my dad had a heart attack.
Mm,
They'd moved to Holland at this point. And it's really funny because he worked for a company called Interpool Shipping after he
okay.
left his roofing company.
Was that
And
1977 that your dad passed?
yes, thank
Okay.
you for knowing that.
Well,
Wow.
I've been studying your story, and it's
How
just
sweet.
it's pretty amazing. Yeah, and I just really appreciate you kind of bringing this journey, uh, to
Gosh, thank
this.
you.
Yeah.
But that was a really, really weird time. I was like floundering, going, oh my God, Epic Records. I was working for Steve Slutza. His name was Steve Slutza. He was a music executive, and Pat Siciliano, who worked for Playboy Records as well. And I'm always like, men were always kind of like the ones you had to please to get ahead.
Right.
But I
Right.
wouldn't sleep with anybody. I was very, very um, kind of naive about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember when they called Interpol, the company called, and they thought it was Interpol, the International Police calling. And the whole Epic Records office goes, the International Police are after you. And I went, what do you mean? And I got this terrible news. My dad had a massive pulmonary embolism, shot a clot to his heart, and he was on life support in Holland. And I would have to fly back and be with my family. And that was tough. It was a weird time. And before he died, he was on a big balloon pump. And we'd visit the hospital every day. And I would go home and watch Dutch TV show, English TV shows with Dutch subtitles, or Dutch shows with English subtitles. And I would start writing letters to every single producer, handwritten letters to
Gosh.
every name I would see at the end of the credits for Barnaby Jones and all these Jack Webb shows and all these different, Rockford Files, I think. And I believe that alchemy of just that intention of writing letters was what happened. I didn't get any of those jobs. But the minute I got to town, oddly enough, I broke into the set at Goldwyn Studios. First, I tried to break into Paramount to meet that was later, the Happy Days cast. But I got onto the lot somehow, just by, I think girls could look cute enough in those days, the guard would let you in. And I
Absolutely.
walked around the hall. I was going door to door, putting my resume under doors, and there's Jack Webb and Paul Donnelly, the head of Universal Production, in the hall. Go, can we help you? And I said, I'm looking for a job. And Webb said he was smoking a lot, and he always wore
Was he a
red.
smoker? Like, because I think in his
Yeah,
episodes, I'm always like, is that guy like really smoking or he's a true smoker?
a real smoker. He smoked a lot, which I think wasn't good for his health. He said, yeah, we're looking for Georgie Sherman's looking for a secretary upstairs, going up to the second floor and apply there. And he hired me on the spot. This tiny little producer guy was so wonderful to me. And he directed a lot of John Wayne movies and Jane Mansfield B movies and stuff. And then he gave me his um, the pictures of the assassination of Trotsky, the original police photos. He said, What do you think of
That
this
was
story?
the thriller that you were writing about because it was
Yes.
about Stalin. It was based on a true story of Stalin's one of his top assassins, right?
Right, right. Ramon Mercader. And the mother, I wrote the Oedipal complex. I discovered that they look like twins, the mother and the son, and he took an ice pick and killed Trotsky in the head. And I wrote the whole backstory of, I don't know what possessed me, but my dad had already died. And at this point, I felt kind of I had a guiding spirit. I don't believe in the occult. I don't believe in psychics and airy fairy stuff, although I actually believe in quantum physics and the idea that love is an actual force
Mm.
and that God is love. But there was some beautiful power around me during that time, and everything kind of clicked. Like I was on a waiting list to get this apartment in Beverly Hills for $200 a month. And I thought that's a good safe place to live. And there were 25 people ahead of me. I called up the woman, turned out to be Florence Henderson's sister from the Brady Bunch. She goes, I like you. I think I'll give it to you. And I got lucky. Linwood Boomer came in the office. He was my Xerox copy boy. And we talked about our dreams and becoming actors. Later, a year later, he was on Little House on the Prairie as the blind preacher. I
Oh
was on Two Ghosts for
yeah.
Comfort. And or a couple of years later. And then we played Love Interest in Love Boat a couple of years after that. And I got to meet Leslie Nielsen with his whoopee cushion, and Lana Turner came in for hair and makeup tests when I was working at Webb. So we
Unbelievable.
had fun there. It was like, wow, I got to know the backstory about Hollywood.
And I know you use the term God shots. You're having this journey to Hollywood, and boom, like I remember what I mean, you were, I mean, and are known around the world, and you're on Too Close for Comfort, and you are just peaking at there it is. I love it. And it's still, and for people like it's still worldwide.
My mouth is the only one ever open in all these pictures, and that's not very,
It's
it's
still
kind of
on
a dirty joke.
worldwide syndication to this day. Like,
Yeah,
and
it's weird.
I, what? So here was my question on that. Like, as you're in the heart of fame, Lydia, what truly is fame like?
Ugh. Okay, I have to say this now because it was a drug for me. The fame drug, I chased it.
Mm,
And I stumbled into it actually, but I had to have it. It seemed like it was either that or death. I had to become
yeah.
bigger than life in order to get that love I didn't think I got at home. And maybe it was subconscious, but fame is very hollow. Fame
Mm,
for fame's sake. Creative artists are gifts to us. I think we're supposed to be here in this plane of existence in order to share our gifts and to delight in each other, whether it's your music, your art, your writing, your cooking, your humor,
mm,
or raising babies and just enjoying this beautiful universe. It's so beautiful. And when I look up, I see it. I see that, I mean, who would create a zebra with stripes, a horse with stripes, or a zebra with spots, or a butterfly? It's just too beautiful to be believed. And if there is a creator, there is this beautiful force of creation. It's all good and beautiful. And yet we choose to get mired in anger and hatred and envy and, you know, just air our grievances and jealousy and all that stuff. Territory, wanting more. And you can never satisfy the hole in your soul unless you start looking around and being present. And I had so many cool things happen with that one that shift of thinking. But none of this would have happened without falling, you
mm.
know, really crashing and burning first. And I'm lucky I'm alive from what really happened. But that first audition for Too Close for Comfort, there was a God shot in that. And I call it God shot, small g, is synchronicity. I found this book by Carl Jung called Synchronicity
Mm.
because he himself was obsessed with synchronicity, going,
Philosopher.
how would you explain random coincidences that don't seem random? They seem that there's a divine order in the universe. There's something called grace. He believed there was a juxtaposition of the laws of nature, but they weren't a juxtaposition. They were actually the divine flow of nature is harmony.
Wow.
But we're always we believe it's you have to interrupt nature to have a miracle, but
Mm.
actually, they're natural law when you're in the flow of life. They're not
Wow.
something that's bizarre. They're not supernatural. They're supremely natural. And it comes from being less selfish and being less myopic and less, me, and less of an asshole, which I can be a big asshole during this. But I learned to laugh at myself, which I never could do before I got had this awakening. Um, everything turned funny. Every tragedy became comedy. But that first audition was weird.
Why was it weird? What was going on there?
Well, I don't even know how I got oh yeah, I stumbled into a party one night and I met these managers there and they said, "You have the look they're looking for the new ABC series." And I didn't believe them. I thought, oh, everybody's coming on to everyone in Hollywood. And then, oh yeah, it was a casting director named Joyce Selznick. And then these managers called me out of the blue and they go, "Could you come in and we'd like to talk to you. We represent a young actor named Michael J. Fox. He's playing a 12-year-old on Palmerstown, USA. He's 21. And we have Tracy Bregman from Young and the Restless." And I went, okay, well, I went in, I signed a contract for 20%. And then they gave me an agent that I had to pay 10% and
Oh,
a business manager 5%. So out the window is 35%. But what did I know? And then they said, there's an audition for you. I didn't have a car, I took a bus. And I was wearing a hairpiece because I thought my hair wasn't thick enough or something. And I found a fake wig, a fall, and I wore jeans and a sweater, and I stumbled into the audition at KTLA Studios, and I was late, 30 minutes late. And the secretary went, "Sorry, you're too late. They've
oh,
finished. They saw 400 girls for this part. It's over." And it was for a series with Ted Knight called Keep It in the Family, based on a British series. And I start to cry, and I walk out like. And then Arnie Sultan, who created Get Smart with Mel Brooks, he comes out of the office. He's the main producer on the show. He goes, "Oh, let her read. She looks the part. She'll be our last girl." And it sounds almost magical, but I walk in and I read with Arnie and the lines, and there's four people in the room, Marcy Carsey, Bob Stolfi, Marcy Carsey, and Tom Werner, who later became big producers in Hollywood. Um, so I'm reading the script, and there's a line that says, "Sarah gives Dad a raspberry." So the line is something like, "We become two very mature, sophisticated young women, in case you haven't noticed. So there," and I thrust an imaginary raspberry at Arnie, the producer. And he goes, "What the hell are you handing me?" And I went, "I'm giving you a raspberry, like it says in the script." And they all burst out, the whole room exploded in laughter. And I turned beet red. Oh God, I made a horrible mistake. And they go, "You don't know what a raspberry is? In showbiz lingo?" You know what it is, right?
I don't even know what it is.
Oh my God. Okay, so a raspberry is a Bronx cheer. It's like a really loud, obnoxious sound you make with your lips put together. Oh, okay, if I do it on the air, it's going to sound crazy.
Right.
It sounds horrible, but it's a big,
That's
and
a
that's what I'm supposed to
raspberry.
do. That's a raspberry in showbiz lingo, and it's a Bronx cheer. Everyone in showbiz knew this but me. And they go, "What planet are you from?" And I think I said Texas.
Hilarious.
And they go, "What time can you be at the network tomorrow morning? You're going to meet the head of the network,
Oh my
and
gosh.
you're one of the five girls for the callbacks." And I go in wearing a virginal white dress with flowers. Every other girl was wearing cleavage hanging out and their
Yeah.
nipples showing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like a virgin. And they wanted a virginal, but the God shot happened at that audition.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
something
there are
big.
400 gone. You're just happenstance. Someone comes out and says, "Hey, let's do one more." And you walk in there and even getting there, it was from a party that you just happened to be at. Like that's
Yeah,
these chain of events, connecting the dots, going back. It is amazing. And
it's
then
weird. Yeah.
I can't imagine that feeling that you have. And then all of a sudden, here you are in the most popular TV show in the world.
Well, wait, that audition in front of Tony Thermopolis and the entire ABC network brass, they're all sitting on big couches at the Schubert Theater upstairs. It was the ABC network, the head of the whole thing. And Ted Knight, whom I love from Mary Tyler Moore's show, he'd already won 6 Emmys.
Yeah.
I don't know what I wasn't nervous. I read with him and they laughed. Everything I said, they laughed. It was like magic. And
You
then
didn't feel
Deborah Vaughn,
nervous at all?
no, I don't remember.
Just natural?
I don't remember feeling nervous. I didn't know enough yet to be nervous.
Ah,
On the other end of when you get it all, then you start to fear losing it, right?
I see. Yeah.
But this is the weird thing. This is the first big uncanny synchronicity I ever had. Deborah von Valkenburg, they already cast her as my sister. And right then and there, at the end of my reading, they were clapping and they were going, we never do this, but we're going to tell you right now, you have the role of
Wow.
Sara Rush.
Wow.
And I didn't know what that meant. I said, okay, so normally we call your manager and agent first, but we're going to tell you right now, you have the role. They were thrilled that they found this character they needed. I was the last casting they had to do. Deborah von Valkenburg had read with me. She's my sister Jackie. She comes up to me and she goes, what's your name again? I went, it's Lydia Korniloff. It's a weird Russian name. I got to get a shorter name. She said, Korniloff. I worked for a Gregory Korniloff in New York City in the shipping industry company called Interpol. And it was for 5 years during when I was on Hair on Broadway. She was working as a temp. And then she got this permanent job at Interpol. And he was my boss. And I went, you work for my dad?
Oh my gosh.
And he had died at this point. I felt like he wrote all this was being orchestrated from
Unbelievable.
she worked for my father, and so I felt like we're sisters ever since then. We're still best friends. I directed her in a movie. She's like a soulmate.
Yeah, because
Isn't
you
that
guys came
weird?
together like 20 years later and was a part of something, right?
Yeah. Well, we did Too Close Together, and then I directed him. I wrote a movie that she played my sister in. Yeah, yeah, which
And
now
she
is becoming
worked for your dad.
come on, out of 10 million people in New York City,
Insane. Like I mean, again, it's just, and you have so many stories like this. Like
synchronicity.
it's
What is it?
so, and so that's okay. You kind of blew my mind with that story because it's like all these things are leading, all these things are like, here, we're get. And I love what you said too about like almost like letting go is when the magic happens. It's not like we have to force our way in. Like you couldn't have planned that. You couldn't have planned that chain of events.
No,
It was like
I couldn't.
life, hey, but I love how you said you had the intention. You had the intention of going out there and you had the intention of doing these things. And all of a sudden, you just seem to naturally be at the right place at the right time.
You just brought up something that now I just realized. I think what I did was I kept saying yes. I
Mm,
didn't I didn't say, oh, no, I'm scared to be seen. Like
wow.
now there's times I go, no, I don't want to be seen. I'm getting older as a woman. It's hard to be seen in public. All this bullshit that we put in our
Yeah,
way,
right.
or you're afraid, or you hedge and hem and haw. I just kept saying yes. I would do the next indicated step. There's an unsuspected inner resource in all of us. And religious people call it the kingdom of heaven is within you, but this power is within all of us. We just don't recognize it, rely on it, trust it, and have fun with it. Life is meant to be fun
Mm,
and sparkly. It's when
yeah.
I'm having fun and I'm really not worrying, the door's open. I don't remember having fun. I just sort of went forward with everything that was happening.
It's
I
like you
never
were
said
acting
no.
on the intuition. You had the
Yeah.
intuition, like, I'm going to act, say yes. I'm going to act, say yes. Did you ever, when you were in the height of that fame, did it ever hit you? Like, holy shit, like everyone in the world knows me. Like, was that
Yeah.
scary? Was that weird? Was that fun? Was it all
It
of
was
it?
fun. At first it was fun. Sorry, I have to.
No, that's right.
Um, At first, it was fun because the first weekend we were a big hit. We were in the top three or top 10.
Yeah.
We were on right out, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Too Close for Comfort, Three's Company, and Heart to Heart. We were on Tuesday's biggest hit night of TV in the 80s. And we were a major hit series, and Ted was hilarious. The pilot was funny. I went on tour with Tom Hanks around the country because he was promoting Bosom Buddies. He was playing a drag queen in that show with Peter Scolari and Donna Dixon, where they had to dress up like women to live in a women's apartment building to get the cheaper rent or something. And Tom Hanks, luckily, didn't his show didn't make it. That's why he got to go on and do movies. Our show wasn't an Emmy-winning show, but it was fun and people loved it. There was there were some problems though. But that first weekend in New York City, They flew us to New York, the producers. They put us up at the Plaza Hotel, and I'm coming down with I had a fiance, Truett Bell at the time. We're coming downstairs to get into the carriage, a horse and buggy carriage. They were going to take us on a tour around Central Park. And the coat check girl goes, "Hi, Lydia." And I went, "How does she know my name?" And she knew I love your show. It only been on for 2 weeks. And we
Wow.
were such a big hit. She knew my name. And I thought, oh, this is what fame feels like. Everyone knows your name. And then we
That's
get to,
crazy. And again, no social media, and you're going halfway across the country. That's when, or all the way across the country, that's when you know you've made it.
exactly. And then when they take us to Tavern on the Green that night for dinner and the Crystal Room, which is all glass in the middle of Central Park. And I'm feeling on top of the world, and there's a fan waving at me through the window. And I didn't know it was a homeless person, but we're in the middle of Central Park. And I waltz over to the window like Miss America and I wave a kiss at him and he spits a loogie. He spits on the window. And that's what fame is. It's like
Wow.
you're on top of the world and you're really, here I am, Miss America, and this guy we're in his living room. We're in the middle of Central Park where he lives under a tree. And he's like, you beautiful people. It was like a perfect comeuppance. It was a perfect pointing me at what would happen later in my life, because fame is a drug you cannot hold on to. It's very,
Mm.
very, it dissipates if you chase it. You've got to be actually talented and work on your craft and find your goals and your dreams and keep reinvigorating them. It's not an easy industry for women because when I turned 35, a casting director said to me, "Wow, you look pretty good for an old lady." Because I was considered very old at
Good point.
35, and having been a sex symbol, you weren't allowed to gain a pound or get a wrinkle. I'm horrified at what they do to women right now, like
Well,
Catherine
didn't you
Bach.
even say too, and not to interrupt, but what I think I
Yeah.
heard in another interview when you were talking about this, because you were a worldwide sex symbol. And I think I heard you, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lydia, but weren't there sometimes like contractual things like you have to wear a
Yes.
bikini in this, you have to look this way? And how does that not over time, like fame alone, right? You have fame and anyone in that, like who wouldn't become egotistical, but you also have this not only fame, but like here's the image that you have to transform to, and it better be perfect. But did all those demands take a toll after a while
Oh
too?
God, yes. Are you kidding? That's why I had to, well, that's when my drinking career started. But one thing I forgot to tell you was a wonderful other coinkydink, we call it coinkydink, that happened when my father had passed away and I came back to California. I had that apartment where Florence Henderson's sister rented me this
Yeah.
single apartment with a Murphy bed, and it was in a really good area, and $200 a month. And I was invited on a date with an agent, and I know the guy's name. Um,
Yeah.
I also met Don Henley from the Eagles.
Oh, wow.
We're going to see them. And every time I run into him, he goes, "Hey, Lid." I met Don Henley and JD Souther, and this was during the drug days, and everybody was passing around wads of, drugs.
Whatever
I
you
met him at
got.
the Troubadour and I started dating Don Henley. And he wouldn't mind if I told this story probably. He stuck money under my door to go to Trashy Lingerie, a famous lingerie store, and instead I bought an IBM Correcting Selectric typewriter with it. And he was so angry because I wasn't going to sleep with him. I wasn't going to, he was a major rock star
That's
at the
money
time.
well spent. Go for the typewriter. That's
He's
a
like,
good
"What?"
move, Lydia. That is funny. That's a great story. That's a great story.
So, and then I got invited to the Playboy Mansion, met Dudley Moore, I had to fight off a lot of I was really lucky not to go through any really scary sexual escapades with people, but it was fun dating Don. I dated Don Henley several times throughout many years, and he's a great guy. I love him, a wonderful human being. And then, but this is the cool thing. This agent takes me to La Scala Boutique, a restaurant. This is before anything happened, before the audition for Too Close for Comfort.
Yeah.
And we walk into this restaurant, and at the front booth, there's Natalie Wood, Robert Wagner, Fred Astaire, and
Fred is there.
Aaron
Man.
Spelling.
Oh my God.
Iconic, you know, Fred Astaire. But Natalie Wood and Robert Wagner and Aaron Spelling, I knew he was the producer of Charlie's Angels and
Oh,
Starsky and Hutch and
big.
Love Boat, right? And I'm like shaking. I'm so starstruck. And my agent friend introduces me, and I'm shaking. I can't even say anything. And then we go sit opposite them at a booth. And at the end of the meal, this is no lie, this actually happened. Natalie Wood summons me with her index finger. And I walked over kind of rotely. And I stood there in front of them, and she goes, Mr. Spelling would like to meet you. Are you new in town? So he wanted to meet all the new girls. And he said, are you an actress? And I went, yes, how'd you know? And he said, would you like to come in and read for Love Boat tomorrow? You can meet my casting director, Kathy Henderson. And sure enough, I got my first Love Boat the next day.
Unbelievable.
Was wearing a bikini playing shuffleboard, and I had one line. And I said my line to the camera, and the director goes, darling. He called me a bimbo, I think. Hey, bimbo. We don't look in the camera. We look away from the camera. We look at the actor. I was so scared. And that led to an audition for another pilot, which luckily I didn't get because that opened the door for Too Close for Comfort.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, weird.
How did you because going through this, did you ever, when you're talking about that's kind of when you talked about, drinking started here or there. Did you ever get frustrated? Like at first, it seems like it's exciting. You're on the top of the world, but at what point does the frustration come in and feel like, or I don't want to say frustration, I want to say it more like this way. Did you ever feel like dark energies coming after you? Not, and I'm not trying to get like super duper, like
Mm,
whatever, but did you ever feel like, or I could say the negative forces of fame start to creep in and where you feel like, oh shit, like this is not it, or I
yeah.
am not comfortable, or I don't, and maybe losing your, not losing yourself, but where it became almost, I can't, like you said, not being able to hold on to fame.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, the second year of the show, the girls, Jackie and Sarah were really popular, the two younger girls. We had our own storylines, and ABC Network was really excited about us. And then Ted freaked out and put the kibosh on our storylines. He got very, very insecure. God bless him.
Because wasn't he
And I love
somewhat
him.
territorial? And I'm not trying to mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a legend, but
Oh, I know.
sounds like he was somewhat territorial at times.
Yeah. My mentor was Audrey Meadows, who played originally in The Honeymooners with Jackie Gleason. I mean, she was an iconic, she did live TV with Jackie Gleason in The Honeymooners. I'm talking about years earlier. But she played my grandmother in this show, and she was like a mentor. I could go to her for help and advice. And she was scared of Arnie and Ted. They didn't like smokers, so she was always smoking in her dressing room, and she'd bring a giant cucumber to work from her garden in Beverly Hills and cut it in half and stick the cigarette in the middle of the cucumber and like cover it up.
You got to
And
hide
so
that
I would go to
smoke. So
her
when I
for
have my
help.
smoke break, we're gonna put that back in the cucumber and over here. That is
But
hilarious.
she also was the one who encouraged me to go to Beirut, Lebanon for the USO tour in '82. So Christmas Eve '82, I go to Beirut, right in the middle of a war zone. It was the most incredible trip of my life.
Was it
And
really?
that's a whole nother story. But she was the kind of person I looked up to, and I didn't have any friends on the set really, because one day I go to the food truck. We were at KTLA Studios, and across the street was Solid Gold. We were on the same stage as All in the Family had been on with Archie Bunker, with
Yeah.
God, that incredible show, the Norman Lear's shows. And so there was a food truck, so I was hungry, and I go and I got buy a taco, a burrito, a bag of M&Ms, and some fries.
Perfect
And coming
order.
back from my lunch break, and Arnie, the producers, are all sitting there on the stage. They look at me and they go, "What is wrong with you? Don't you know you're a sex symbol? You can't eat starch." And in those days, it was called starch, not carbs.
Oh,
And I threw all the food in the air. I was shaking, and I dropped all the food, and I went
did you
crying to my
really?
boyfriend.
You're like,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna eat this.
I can't eat. You can't eat if you're a sex symbol. You have to be skinny and pretty. And it
Unbelievable.
was, drinking doesn't come from any cause. I found out that first of all, I don't believe alcoholism is genetic, but I believe it's trauma based.
Mm,
A lot of therapists believe it's made based on some childhood trauma that we feel so sad and insecure that we can't fill up that hole without the spirits
yeah.
of the liquor, or drugs. But I can't say anything caused it, but the insecurities and the having to be perfect all the time. And we're on a hit show where Ted kind of threatened me. It's like, you're carrying the show. If we fail in the ratings, and he needed this show to make him, he had three failed series right before ours. He was supposed to be the big star of Mary Charlie Moore that was going to get his own series. And the other two or three that he tried didn't make it.
Hmm.
So this was the one the networks all loved.
But
They loved,
he's putting that on your shoulders, Lydia. Like you've got to step
kind
like,
of, they all did. They all did to all of us, but I was given more pressure because being the sex symbol, ABC put me on the cover of lots of magazines. And then one day I come to work and Ted is furious because I'm on the cover of a tabloid.
oh,
And then Princess Di is in the top corner, tiny, and underneath it says, Ted Knight is just like my real father, Lydia Cornell, star of Too Close for Comfort. Ted went, I'm the star of the show, and he threw it at me.
oh, geez.
And I would have done anything to make him happy. I wanted to be invisible. Tried to become invisible at that point. And that was stupid because Morgan Fairchild instead did the other thing. She hired a publicist to make her name bigger than the failed series she was on, Falcon Crest. She was on a series that was rated number 60 with Mark Harmon, and it was called, oh, not Falcon Crest, it was called, oh, I gotta find it. Um, and she got her name to be bigger than the show. In other words, a publicist helps you do other things, do charity work, and get your name out there,
Yep.
right? So she became bigger than the failed series she was on. To look up the name of that show. Um, and then Ted said, you're not allowed to hire a publicist or do anything to make your name bigger than this show. He wanted me to stay small. And I don't blame him because he was insecure. Actors get insecure. But if I had a series of my own, I would be so generous. I would give everybody more time.
Well, and that's
Now
apparent.
I
Like
know.
I've always admired that too. Like I've heard you talk about some of those experiences and others. And one thing that sticks out to me is that even in those situations, like you're always you're always so generous, even talking about people that maybe you've disagreed with. Like you do it
Oh,
in such a um almost in a way of gratitude, like there was a lesson out of it. And at the same time, it was like, you know, like you said, like you've said such positive things about Ted, and yet you're able to share the reality of what that environment is like. Because it's not always like, yeah, so and so they're great and they're talented, but if you pull back the curtain, here's why it was hard for me. I felt this big, or not to say that I'm not trying to put words or anything, but I really appreciate how you tell those stories instead of, you know, I mean, it's
God, thank you.
it
Thank you
speaks
so
a
much.
lot.
I don't Oh, you're so sweet to say that. I fail often now with the current things going on in the world. I sometimes get really triggered and then I get angry and I say something and then I go, oh God, I've got to say I'm sorry because all humans, we're just trying to get along. I don't know this person's background.
Right.
Being harsh expands harshness.
Right.
Being, spreading bad news expands the bad news. I know the principle of the universe. It's to spread good. It's to look at the good and the good gets bigger. It's to really see the silver linings. And I really now know that everything is in divine, everything's in a beautiful order if we stop focusing on the negative. Really, I mean, it really is a quantum physics principle. It's everything's energy. There's no solid matter in the whole universe. Even in an electron microscope, to the smallest atom, the tiny center of an atom, it's energy. There's no solid matter anywhere.
Right.
So our thoughts really do create our reality, way more than we'll ever know. And I've had real evidence of this working.
Well,
I mean, hundreds of these.
you've talked about that too, and you alluded to it earlier, but it's also in your website biography where talked about the crash and burn of Hollywood, and your experience also led to some of the biggest, I think you said catastrophic spiritual awakenings that you've
Yeah.
had. Oh yeah, I wrote it down. It says, I now have a tangible evidence of a force beyond anything in the material world.
Yes. Oh my God. That
And
excites me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, well, actual evidence. Okay, there's a few of these that okay, let me cut to when I got sober. But
yeah.
on the way there with Ted, there was a time I remember going to my managers. It wasn't me. I didn't want to become a bigger star. I wanted to become invisible so Ted would like me. Okay, there was this
Mm,
approval seeking thing. A lot of actors have that, by the way. But the ego of most actors is like, I'm the star, and I want to be smaller. And no matter what I did, I couldn't win his approval. And even the secretary said to me once, "You're getting too much fan mail, so we're answering it for you. We can't give it to you because we want to make sure that everyone gets equal amounts." And I thought, oh my God, I can't even read my own fan mail. And it was kind of cruel.
It's like that
And
Saturday Night Live skit with Martin Short, and they're making fun of each other how much more fan mail they get. I get 1 ton of fan mail. I get 2 ton of fan. I got to look at. Sorry, that's what. So you can't even get your own fan mail,
exactly,
Lydia. That's crazy.
exactly. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I had to get through that. And then my managers, they were the ones behind everyone's back trying to get more money, saying I was the star. And I went, why did you say I didn't know they were doing this. So it was like all this drama going on. I went to work shaking every day, scared. And
Hmm.
then I became trying to make myself uglier. I tried to like put little barrettes in the hair and make my hair
Oh,
shorter, where I tried to become less sexy. I thought that would make Ted happy. I don't know what the hell. You see the hairdos change so much in that show. But we're lucky we got through it alive. You know, there were times, but at the same time, I loved Ted. We went out for drinks
yeah.
and he was a lot of fun. You know, we'd go have lunch and we'd run into all the other casts. Like Barney Miller was on our same lot, and we'd have dinner at this lunch at this women's club thing in Hollywood. And so Ted would say, "Everybody put spinach in your teeth, and we're going to go around from table to table and say hi to everybody." We all had spinach hanging out of our teeth, and Ted would go to their table and put his finger in their drinks.
Oh,
He thought that was funny, and we get a big laugh out of that. So we would. You know, he was fun. He would make like on rehearsal day. John Ritter was next door doing
wow.
a spinoff from Three's Company when we moved to the lot, Metro Media lot. And
Wow.
he would come to work in the morning on Monday and we sit around and do jokes, dirty jokes, goats and sheep jokes,
Yeah.
sex jokes until we just laughed ourselves silly. And then we'd have to get up and start rehearsing. And so we were kind of like a team. Even though there was this other friction going on, I loved him. I loved him. And I cried harder at his funeral than anyone.
Yeah.
I
I
really
can't
missed him.
imagine having that intimate career and being so close to somebody, no matter what you go through. Um,
Yeah.
because he passed, was it 2 years ago he passed? No.
No, died in 86,
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right in the middle of our show. And we could have
That's
gone
right.
on 5 or 10 more years because Metro Media picked us up as a first run syndication
That's
deal.
right. That's
ABC, by the way, canceled the show because they were angry that Ted wouldn't allow the girl. I swear, this is what I think the reason is. Ted wouldn't let the girls have their own spinoff or their own fun, you know, younger dynamic. They brought a baby in, and it was killing the younger people. Were kind of like, what's the show becoming? They brought Monroe in to make sure Ted had a punching bag. He was, you know, Monroe played the buffoon the way he was in Mary Charlie Moore show. Ted was the buffoon,
mm,
but he didn't want us to have any limelight anymore. So it's okay, you know. And I found out just recently that he didn't want Nancy in the show either in the 6th year, but she fought to be in it. So God bless him. We love him. I understand the ego of an actor. I understand the insecurity it breeds, and I'm sad about that. But at the heels of the show, I'm being sent off to Monte Carlo to do this Princess Grace Foundation celebrity tennis tournament, celebrity ski tournaments. I was like the captain of a ski team with Cheech and Chong, Brooke Shields, and Christy McNichol on my team. They give you gorgeous ski wear.
unbelievable.
You know, I was like the captain. And I used to be a skier in Colorado, but we're swallowing and we're all drunk. And I started drinking and drinking and drinking. And I had a house to support. I bought a home in Bel Air and I had a fiance. And, you know, you're kind of scared you'll never work again because the show we got booted off the show. Ted didn't want any of the original cast members in the spin-off version. And then he died a year after that.
Mm,
And we all, you know, I owe him everything. He taught me how to do a spit take. He taught me comedy timing.
mm.
He was the first person I really looked up to in the industry. So I love Ted, and I don't mean to ever say anything disparaging. It's just that that's the way the industry is. It's really that
Absolutely.
way. Um, but then my drinking started picking up, and I remember being in Monte Carlo playing celebrity tennis in center court, and there's Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Jenny Craig, Merv Griffin, the weirdest group of celebrities, Harry Belafonte Jr., Sherry Belafonte, Regis Philbin. And
Wow.
you'd all be at this gala dinner and we're drinking all night long. And at one point, I've got a sequin gown on and one high heel left, and they closed the club down at dawn. And I was with Ivana Trump, Roger Moore, Sean Connery, and Prince Albert. And they kicked us all out of the club at dawn. And this guy picks me up in a red Rolls Royce and says,
And
I'm
we've
taking
got a
you
lost high heel shoe somewhere, but we don't know that.
to... Yeah. It was wild. And I realized at that point, I really want a family. I
Mm,
really want kids. I want some substance.
yeah.
And I didn't know how to get there because I was just trying to seek more and more fame. And plus, I'd been in all these other shows. Hunter, A-Team, Knight Rider, Simon and Simon, Hardball. I went on to do Full House, Curb Your Enthusiasm, hundreds of
Knight Rider.
yeah, Knight Rider, yeah. I did lots of game shows. I did like Hollywood Squares and Battle of the Network Stars, just funny things happening and trying to be a sex symbol and look good in a bikini when you're on Battle of the Network Stars. I was like contorting my body. I put on fake tanning cream. Then they make me get in. William Shatner was my captain. He goes, I'm not getting wet. Lydia, you get in the water. And all my tanning cream comes off and drips on the white towel and it looks like urine. And
Yeah.
the paparazzi's chasing me to get a picture.
Well, it's interesting too, is because it almost sounds like after a while, if you're not careful, it could potentially become a trap because you're like, I
Yeah.
have to keep up this image. I don't care oh, you want me to jump in the water? Okay, great. Like I would do the same thing. Like if I was like,
Right.
oh, Matt, you're gonna get this chance to open for so and so. Okay, do this, this, this. Now, obviously I wouldn't do everything, but I'd be like, huh.
Right.
I mean, I'd
Mm.
do, some things. And so it's like I get it. Like I don't get it at that level, but like at your level, you're in it. And then you said you reached a point where you're like, ah, yeah, this is fun, but it sounds
Mm.
like there was a lack of substance that you were looking for at some point.
It's weird because that addiction to fame or needing to get a bigger, better role or to be that I had to revamp. Like I thought about Farrah Fawcett. She went from Charlie's Angels to Extremities in the Burning Bed in order to be taken seriously as an actress after Charlie's Angels. And she was a superstar. I mean, I can't even compare myself. I'm not on any level like that. And it's our show never won Emmys and stuff. So I always was embarrassed that our show was just a sitcom and I never got to do what I really wanted to do, be a serious actress. Um, but in order to become one, they almost said you're not allowed to be. Once you're a sex symbol, you're in one category, you're typecast. And you'd have to go way over to another extreme.
Hmm.
Like Charlize Theron gained weight for Monster and
Right.
became a serial killer. Uh, Farrah did Extremities, where she got raped and beaten and abused on a daily basis on Broadway. And now she could be a serious actress. Um, I didn't. I just didn't take that step I didn't want it that badly. I wanted to be a writer secretly. I'd always been a secret writer. And I thought, I'll write my own way out of this. It was still looking for that thing that's bigger than life rather than inside you where the gold is. And I would have to take crushing and burning to find that inner strength.
When you,
But, it's there all along.
sorry to interrupt there, but when you
No.
say to become a serious actress, I know on the outside what we're talking about, but so many people would say, well, you are a serious actress because you're acting in the biggest sitcom in the world. And so
Oh,
does that come from some of no matter how much fame you get, it will not cover up that hole?
yes, yes, yes. They call it in AA, they call it a God-shaped hole, but a spiritual. There's a hole in your heart when you never feel like you're loved enough. And honestly, I don't know if every child who had really great parents has that same yearning, that same hole in their heart. But boy, it's a journey. When you say journey, a journey of love and forgiveness, trying to love yourself, and then realizing this is the weird thing that you cannot willfully do this alone, that you have to have.
Oh,
Now, this is where the part that's mystical comes in. I can't explain this higher power thing, but I will tell you a couple of bizarre things that
please.
happen in me, stories. Um, at my worst bottom, I had this. at a certain point after I got back from all the crazy ski trips and Monte Carlo trips and playing celebrity tennis around the world and trying to get it from being filled up from fame and dating famous people. Like, I went to ski tournaments in Aspen and there was the producers of Miami Vice, Tony Yurkovich asked me on a date and John Johnson is there and we're skiing together with Jack Nicholson and I'm up at his house and there's a lot of capers and I met Marlon Brando, I met everybody and I have worked with a lot of big guys, and then nothing's working, and I keep drinking, and I'm trying to find the right guy, and the man search was really hard because they're looking for a real wife mother. They don't want a
Yeah.
ditzy blonde. And I thought, well, I've got to have, what about babies? Oh my God, I forgot to have a baby. The clock ticks out at 36 for women. That's what I was told. So I'm searching and searching, and I suddenly realize, oh well, I went to a party one night and these friends introduced me to a guy who also wanted children really badly. And we made a pact that, we would have a child together. And we were drinking together and we got to be friends. And he wasn't somebody I wanted to marry, but I thought, if it happens, it happens. And it happened. And it was a miracle.
Wow.
And I didn't drink during the pregnancy. But the minute that baby was born, I was searching for liquor and the baby was perfectly healthy. And I was already in my 40, I was 40. That's later.
Yeah.
But oddly, all the synchronicity happened. It paid for my insurance. It was like I didn't have the health insurance to cover a pregnancy because SAG, I hadn't been working in a couple of years. And out of the blue, I get this music video, which paid for the entire pregnancy.
Wow.
A lot of beautiful gifts came in. The baby was perfect. It was just the most beautiful experience. And then I suddenly craved drinking again, and I was sneaking drinks, and I knew I had to breastfeed. So that was touchy. And
Sure.
then one day I decided, there was a friend of mine came over with a bunch of Stoli and cocaine, and the baby's in the next room. The nanny had gone for that weekend. And I hear the doorbell ringing downstairs in the morning. I get up really late. I hear the baby crying in the next room. I'm still kind of hungover. I'm drinking in the morning. I go over and pick up the baby and I waltz him over. I put on some uplifting suicide music by Jackson Brown, Song for Adam, my favorite song. And I'm weaving my way over to the staircase and I hear the doorbell at the bottom of the stairs. And my mother's coming over to introduce her favorite cousin to the baby. I have to be impeccably dressed. I'm in my nightgown at noon, and I had that thought in the baby room, and I weaved my way over thinking, oh, I have to change first. And I went into a complete blackout at the top of the stairs. Blackout. I was a radioactive drop dead drunk at this point, by the way. And I don't often tell this part of the story to any layman, but we talk about it a lot in recovery. But to this day, I don't know how I got down the stairs. All I remember was the door open. I'm at the bottom of the stairs holding the baby and upside down. Oh my God. I cry every time I tell this story, and I'm 31 years sober now.
Congratulations. That's awesome. 31 years.
But that moment, the door burst open. All I remember is some sunlight hit some primordial nerve in the back of my skull, and I woke up, and my mother's face is in a soundless scream, like the Edward Munch painting. And I looked like Blanche Dubois of Streetcar Named Desire, mascara dripping down my face, my nightgown on, everything that my mother hated.
Hmm.
And she grabbed the baby, went upstairs, and I'm like, I went to bed for 3 days going, I've got to get over this. What is this? What is this? And my sister comes, they both come to clean and cook and take care of the baby for the weekend. And then I'm invited to my sister's house for dinner that week. And I walk down to her place, which is near mine. I open the door and there's a doctor from Brotman Hospital. There's my baby brother. There's my mom and her husband, my stepfather. And I go, oh, no, no, no. I know what this is. This is an intervention. I'm fine. I'm fine. I just had a couple drinks. And I go, by the way, Paul's the one with the problem, my brother, my baby brother. He's a pothead and a concert pianist. And they go, but you're the one with the baby. We're taking the baby away from you if you don't get sober.
Mm.
You got to go to Brotman Hospital tomorrow. So I went to the hospital to meet the doctor.
Hmm.
I'm wearing a short, dark wig and red lipstick. I'm too famous to get sober. He goes, first of all, no one knew who I was at this point. I was like drinking my way through life. The doctor says to me, everyone in this town who's creative, every rock star, every artist, every actor that you admire that isn't dead and has this problem, they're sober.
Mm.
And they found this amazing gift. And I said, but what do I have to do? He says, we have to put you in a 28-day treatment program without your baby. And I went, no. So I went
Mm.
home. I had one last crazy weekend of driving drunk in the car, taking my baby to Labor Day barbecues, putting him down on the table, running in people's houses, looking for liquor. And I couldn't get drunk that last weekend. I've heard that happens at the end. And Tuesday morning, September 11th, 1994, I woke up with the most horrible feeling of suicidal depression. And I looked up an AA meeting, and there was one in Beverly Hills, the Good Shepherd Church. And I floated into that meeting with hat and sunglasses on. And I walk in. I don't know how I got there. I didn't drive. And the first thing I heard was a woman at the podium and all these shiny, happy women, famous women, movie stars, everything. And a woman at the podium is saying this. If you wandered into this room and you don't know you have a drinking problem, let's put it this way. Virgins don't take pregnancy tests. And the whole room roared with laughter. And I went, they're not hobos. There's happiness here. What is smell of cinnamon pastries and coffee brewing and happy people? And then they said, are there any alcoholics present? And my hand shot up without my permission. And that was my first surrender, my first prayer. I have not had a drink since that day, 31 years ago. And the biggest synchronicity happened that day at that meeting. It's uncanny.
Praise
And
be to
I'll say
God.
that in a minute, but we should take a little, um, I'm talking too much. I don't know how to
No,
tell
you're
you.
not. It's a lot of people don't get it, the opportunity to you hear it on TV or here's the story of this star or that star, but
Mm.
you've not only lived through all of this and in this amazing life, this amazing celebrity career, but today you touch so many people's lives. You help children,
Oh,
you're helping other alcoholics, you're helping other people with drugs, you're sharing these stories. And what a gift for that for us. And there's so many stars that you see and not to their fault or his or her fault, but you don't really hear much about it and you don't,
mm,
so to be able to get a glimpse in a real way of here's not only the story and my experience, but hopefully in sharing that, that is going to help. Um, you talked about borderline personality disorder. I know that's a lot of people have either loved ones or close people that have that, right? And when you
mm.
talked about your mom meeting you at the door, like with your baby, one of my immediate thoughts was like my heart went out to you. It's like one of the underlying things was to impress your mom in the first place. And then here it comes full circle. And not that you didn't, but like these stories that you share of like they're so intimate and heart-wrenching and personal, and all of us can connect with, just my own little piddly thing in the music industry. A lot of what you say it relates not at your level. I mean, I'm at a lower level, but so thank you for sharing all these intimate stories. And
Thank
that's what
you.
I think people love and admire so much is like, oh yeah, like holy shit, so and so. Because in the beginning, when you are a star, you're probably not going to get a lot of sympathy from people because they're like, well, life must be perfect for you, da 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 da. But they don't see how. And I loved the story you told about being in New York when you were 2 weeks getting into it. And you're like, you're high, but then there's this symbolic spirit is outside just spitting on you. Not that it was, but I'm like, that was such a great, like, yes, I bet it was that craziness. The
Yes.
highs, the darkness, the weird, these moments of amazing.
Oh
And
my God.
I just can't
Yes.
imagine, So with all of that, what would be your advice to somebody when they're like, hey, I want to go out to Hollywood and make it?
Oh my God. Go for your dreams. Don't let doubt get in your way. If you have a passion for something, do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know don't let any fear get in your way because if you really believe in yourself and you love it, I really believe life is meant to be fun and you're meant to be playful and enjoying life. And when you are in the state of joy, everything flocks to you. Like the Tao, T-A-O, the Tao says, number 22 says, once you've attained wholeness, everything will flock to you. It just means that you don't have to strive and struggle so hard for and fit a square peg into a round hole. You know, I wish I enjoyed it more when I was younger, but now I can see it from a different perspective and go, wow, every domino had to be in that exact order for me to have this child who's 31 today and doesn't even drink and has a home. He just bought a house. He has a
Amazing.
fantastic job at Sony PlayStation. He just got engaged. And I'm like, what? This is, I don't, he doesn't call me, but you know what? I've got to stop spying on him and trying to
Yeah.
stalk Instagram. But, um, it's not about me. And
Wow.
recently I heard a phrase called unselfish love receives directly the divine power. I want to tell you a few of these God shots real quick, though, before we
Please,
go, because
please.
those are magical. I've been on a magic carpet ride for 31 years, falling up. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect.
Yeah.
I married a con artist, and I laughed about it later, and I got my money back through serendipity, through, I call it prayer.
Yeah.
Prayer is the invisible transfer of love to another. And it's
Mm.
forgiving the enemy, forgiving people, letting them go, not lingering and harboring hatred and resentment and not being competitive too much and being generous. It opens every door. There's a great phrase, Rule 62, don't take yourself too damn seriously.
Yeah.
That's a 12-step rule. And wear the world as a loose garment. Don't attach yourself to shame or blame or agony, regret. Looking back, if you have one foot in tomorrow and one foot in yesterday, you're pissing on today. These all
That's well
sound like
said.
cliche, yeah, but they're true. Keep it simple. In the program they have keep it simple, stupid, KISS. But
I'm familiar with a lot of it because I'm familiar with a lot of Al-Anon
oh
personally.
yeah,
So yeah, I know I love all those things that you're saying.
I bet you are. I have them all written down.
I like
See me from
to, even on your social media, you talk about forgiveness. Today on your social media note, it says forgiveness heals everything.
yes,
And what is your advice to somebody when they're just like, hell no, I can't forgive this person. This person did the most
have
awful
to.
things to me. Like, how do you do that?
It will break apart your body. Your own body will start getting weaker and you'll have if you have back pain from looking back too much, I'm not kidding. Metaphysics, your emotions are tied to our health. Actually, a
Mm.
genetic scientist told me that 93% of all disease starts with stress. Stress is worry and fear and regret and shame and hating people. I've got to really stop doing that with politics. I've got to really love. Doesn't mean I have to hang out with my so-called enemy or the people I
Yeah,
don't love,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I can't hate them. And I had a big healing with a very close family member. We had a horrible 5 year anger toward each other. We couldn't stop accusing each other of things with our family issues after my mom died. And I was about to pick up the phone and give her a piece of my mind. I heard a voice say, love her to pieces. And I went, no,
Wow.
I'm gonna love that bitch to pieces. But I did that restraint of tongue and pen. I shut the phone off. I put the phone down. I went for a walk and I kept going, help me find something to love about her. Help me forgive her. Every day I would do that. I would pray to love her. And
Wow.
every day I would send love to her. Every day for a year. Now we're back. She came to me
Wow.
and said, I owe you a big apology.
Wow.
Oh my God, I love her so much. And I don't have very many family members left, close family here. And oh, I wouldn't trade that for anything. And my body healed. It's like they say that you can't hold on to anger and feel that you're healthy. And with my mother, it took so long. I didn't tell you about the hair. I told you about the hair cutting thing. Yeah, I did
Mhm.
tell you about
Oh
that.
yeah, the hair, the curls and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't tell you the really horrible, scary stuff, but those are stories for another time. But she did some things to me that were so horrific. It was like a Betty Davis movie. It was like she chased me with scissors, and I felt like I was going to die.
Awful.
And then she'd fall down begging forgiveness after the deed was done. But my first big date in high school, I had bad
The hot
acne.
and the cold of bipolar or of borderline. Yeah.
Yeah, I had really bad acne, and I was in high school, and I didn't know I was pretty or anything, but I had long hair, and the hair was the only security blanket that covered the acne. And she caught me looking at myself in the mirror, when I was 15, and I was invited my first and only date in high school to go to this sophomore prom. And she was lurking in the hallway and she goes, "You think you're sexy with that long hippie
Oh,
hair." And she pulled out these scissors that looked like gardening shears. And she came at me and she cut it off above my ears. You couldn't even imagine. This wasn't even a pixie cut. My acne, I mean, I couldn't go back to school. I had to wear a scarf. My dad came back from Japan on a business trip and bought me a long Japanese wig to wear. But I just blanked out. That's where I went into an altered state. I remember removing myself from the feeling and going numb. And she fell to her knees begging forgiveness, but it was too late, you know. And then and then
how
the big gunshot.
confusing too. How confusing for a young lady. I mean, not only how degrading and self-humiliation, but how confusing to be like going through this horrible act that you went through and then begging for forgiveness. And it's like, wait a minute, this makes no sense. Like, I can't imagine what it's taken you to, when we talk about forgiveness heals anything, I can't imagine like in a situation like that.
Well, I had okay, so I had actual real you could call them miracles, but I don't believe miracles are unnatural. I think they're natural. But that first AA meeting, the first 12-step meeting I went to in that Good Shepherd Church where the woman said, "Virgins don't take pregnancy tests," and
Yeah.
I surrendered. That meeting, the most bizarre thing happened, and this is why I wanted to tell you about why I believe that this power, if you can just trust this power of love in the universe and stop fighting your own battles, I am telling you, it lifts, there's so many beautiful things that can happen. It's not like you have to try that hard to do all that work. And I have evidence now. So there's one more big thing my mother did to me that was like, sounds ridiculous, but I had the original Ken and Barbie and Midge, the original Barbie
Yeah.
set, one of
Yeah.
the original bubble cut Barbies. And I went away to college and I said, we lived in a big creepy monsters house at this point in Scarsdale, and I hid the dream house, the Barbies in the attic. I said, "Whatever you do, Mom, never give these away. They're going to be worth a fortune someday."
Mm.
And of course, they were gone the minute I come home from the first semester. Everything I loved was gone. You didn't need those old dolls. And
Awful.
I carried this resentment for 20 years, all through my TV series. The Barbies. There's a Barbie musical coming out on Broadway. The
Oh,
Barbies. I could not let it go. I wouldn't let her off the hook. She begged me to forgive her. And then the first AA meeting, no one knew that story, but we had a fight about the Barbies 1 week before that AA meeting, my first 12-step meeting. I shouldn't say AA, but anyway. Um, I'm at that meeting. I surrender that first thing. I felt so much love in the room. All these women came over to me and hugged me. One woman says, "Can I take you home and we'll sit in your garden and talk and we'll sit somewhere and go out for coffee?"
mm.
She goes home with me, drives me home. She says this to me out of thin air. She goes, "Lydia, you're going to overcome every resentment you ever had in this program." For example, I overcame a lifelong resentment against my mother for giving away my Barbies.
No way.
And I went, chills, my hair stood on my neck, and I went, "Am I on a hidden camera show?" I thought it was a setup. I was like, "What?" It
That's
was like I
insane.
was off track my whole life and I was suddenly snapped into divine alignment. I felt I was home. Like, what the?
Insane.
I've never heard that story since from anyone in the program in 31 years. That one day, that one meeting, and that I had hundreds of those uncanny coincidences in a row. And I just kept saying, "Show me the way." I had a lobotomy. I took my old brain out and just said, "I'm willing to follow direction. All my old thinking is gone. I'm just going to go to meetings. I'm going to be present and not worry. I'm going to see if what works." And everything started changing. And then I was out of money. Like the IRS was after me for some big tax debt. It wasn't that big, but my money was in an IRA and I wasn't paying taxes for years on a certain part of that IRA. And I owed like $12,000 and they were going to just put a lien on my bank account. And I said, "Well, it worked for alcohol. I'll get on my knees. I'll surrender it."
Wow.
I had this new baby. Everything was clicking and going well. And the next day I get a notice from the state of California saying, "We found $12,000 in an old bank account, but you have to prove your middle name is Natasha." And I went, "Oh, I used that fake name from the Boris and Natasha cartoons, the Bullwinkle cartoon, back in the beginning."
Unbelievable.
And I couldn't, they said, "You have to prove your middle name, Natasha." And I went, "I can't prove that." "Oh, How weird. I put that fake name on my child's birth certificate. Official
Unbelievable.
Lydia Natasha Kornilov Cornell. So every name I ever had. And they sent me the money and then let me go on a payment plan. So I got to keep the money and go on $100 a month. So all these things were so weird. Weirder than that, many other like one day I said, "Can I give up acting? It's too hard to audition and look young and pretty. Can I just be a writer now?" And then I forgot the question and I took a couple books off my bookshelf, 4 or 5 books downstairs and just brought them upstairs and put them down. And I'm writing the Stalin book, right? I pick up the first book, Pride and Prejudice, Lydia. My name's in the book. I picked up the next book. It was a Kurt Vonnegut book, Lydia. The third book, Lydia. I've never seen my name in that many books. All the books on my shelf. I went, oh, thank you. That's how the higher power talks to me through coincidence and delightful
Unbelievable.
synchronicity. And so
Unbelievable.
these things start, if you really are in the flow of letting go, no matter what's going on in your life right now, even if you have cancer, don't give it power.
Mm.
It's all energy. I know that it's hard to say that prayer works, but it has worked miracles in my life. Every ailment I've ever had, once I really surrender it, it's either easy to deal with or it's gone. I'm not saying everything is that solvable, but at least you're having fun while you're experiencing. I have a friend who had cancer and she laughed her way through it. She said, "I'm going to look at it as an adventure and enjoy it." She she's a miracle. I mean, she had all the stuff done, the chemo, the radiation, the mastectomy, but she enjoyed the process and looked at it like a fun comedy adventure and wrote comedy about it. And now she's fine.
How
So
did
you
you
never
get to
know.
the trust of yourself to be able to let go? Like, because I love what you're saying, and like how would you recommend somebody to be like, okay, all you have to do is let go? Well, how do you trust it when you're like, okay, I've let go for 7 days and nothing's happened, or
Yeah,
I'm really trying to focus on just this. I'm not talking like just like I'm not talking really necessarily material stuff, but like you said,
yeah,
just healthy life, a healthy being
yeah.
positive. Was there anything that you did, or did you just
Helping others, getting, okay,
there you
okay,
go.
helping others. The minute you're self-centered, like I had an audition recently that was, I was scared to death. I hate auditions. And they wanted me for some big part. And I went, usually I get all clammy and upset and worried and I
Yeah.
get neurotic. And a woman had invited me to go and see her speak that day. And I went, no, I can't, I usually can't do anything but work on the script and stay isolated and worry. And I went, no, I'm going to do the opposite, contrary action. I'm going to go out and help her today. And I had
Wow.
the most delightful process of the audition this time, not knowing if I got the part or not, but it was so much fun. And I helped someone else. There's always someone worse off than you, no matter what you think.
There you go.
I really think that's the beginning of the key to changing that surrender. The mechanism of surrender, I'm writing about that right now and I'm trying to figure it out. Um, I had a cop in the program who was an atheist and he goes, I don't like the God shot thing. Why do you have so many God shots? But I said, how come you're sober 39 years? He busted a coke dealer in the back alleys of LA 39 years earlier. The coke dealer went to prison and became the cop's sponsor. The cop didn't believe in God at all, but he believed, but the program of sharing your experience, helping others, kept him going all these years. And his best friend in the program was a nun, a priest, and a coke dealer. And he goes, I don't believe in God, but I went, maybe God is simply love in the flesh.
Right.
Just
Right.
us helping each other. Like you said, when I'm not self-centered, although the only medication I'm on is self-pity. That's one of my that's one of my comedy lines. I always open
That's
my
a great line because then it's easy to play a victim at any time. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
really. Oh my God.
All these stories, Lydia, and it sounds like you're still writing and you're still doing amazing things, but I feel it's just such a gift for all of us to be able to hear from you. And I hope you continue to share and do the amazing things that you've been doing. And congratulations on just um,
This is
everything that you've accomplished and everything that you've gone through and your sobriety.
thank
And
you.
thank you for sharing with us. And like, thank you for being my friend, Lydia.
You're the best. You have such a beautiful spirit. I love you, and your music is really it's a gift. You're gifted. You are really a gifted
No.
artist. I feel that my brother put us together in a weird way, you know. my precious
I
brother.
know we didn't get a chance to talk much about Paul, in 19, I think like you said, 1995, but all I'll share with this is I'll just share one quick story is when I started piano at 12, I didn't have much going for me, very overweight, bullied kid. And my
Oh,
grandpa, who was happened to be an amazing, amazing piano player, also in a 12-step program. He passed
mm.
away, and ironically, I started playing piano like 6 months after he passed away. So I tell that to people. I say,
Wow.
look at it, but I always think it's my grandpa Webster saying, we need to help this kid out a little bit. So
Oh, wow. Gosh,
that's
I didn't know you were bullied. I want to hear this whole story, but that I do believe your grandfather had something to do with it. And like I said, I don't believe in talking about the afterlife too much, except I was talking to my brother not long ago when I was taking care of mom, and I just started crying out to him, going, "Oh, I wish I'd helped you more when you came to LA," because he'd been involved in the police brutality thing. He was just always drinking,
yeah,
and at that moment, at the moment that I said, "I wish I knew you were okay," the alarm on the front door went off at midnight, and there was no possible way that that could have happened unless my stepfather had opened it and there was nobody there. I was right by the front door, in the office right next door.
I love it.
But but also I did tell you that his girlfriend died on the way to his funeral, right?
I did not
He,
know that.
yeah, I found his body when my son was 1.5, and I had a candle lit by. Oh yeah, my little boy looked over at the picture, and he never spoke before, my son, and he looks at the picture of my brother with a candle. My brother had already died on December 1st, 1995. And my son went, "Paul Happy, Paul Happy." I went, "How did you know how to say the word happy?"
No way.
That was freaky. And then, but on the way to his funeral, I called his girlfriend he'd had for 10 years. They'd broken up at the time, but she loved him. And she drove through a snowstorm from Dallas drinking and had a head-on collision and killed an entire family, an 8-year-old boy and herself on the way to his funeral. And I stayed sober and helped her family and his family and my family. And then, I shared at the log cabin a famous meeting, and a young man came up to me and said, "I'll never do drugs again because of what happened with your brother. I found this kid hiking up to the memorial service in a suit. He's still sober today."
Amen.
You never know.
That's that it's well, I mean, that's the, yeah, you got me teary-eyed too. That's the testament of you and your beautiful life and sharing and your beautiful actions. Like if you didn't take those actions, if you weren't a part of that cabin and taking something like a family member, which I can't imagine what you've gone through, and being able to see a silver lining in that is
Oh,
takes a
man.
strong person like you to be able to do that. And even through the pain and the sorrow of that. So, I mean, God bless you, and what a testament. And you're touching lives, and you were not only in this worldwide star, but you're beyond that now on a spiritual level of saying all these sharing all these amazing things and connecting when you wouldn't have had to do that. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have had to,
But that is not me.
you could have rested on your laurels of stardom and been like, oh, great. You know what I mean? Like, we're taking this all the way to the end, let's go. We're gone. But no, you go through these crucibles and,
Oh,
and in going through those and in sharing them with middle America people like us, it's such what a gift. I feel honored to be your friend, Lydia, and to know what you've gone
oh.
through. And I can't wait to read more.
But it's not me. It's not me. I just made myself willing. It's just willingness. It's like saying, "Show me the way. I don't know everything." And just being willing. I swear to you, that's step three. It's became willing to believe there was a power greater than yourself that loves you. That it's not, that fundamentalist religion thing teaches you that there's this hell and
Right.
punishment. No. I think we're always in this beautiful harmony of the universe, but we don't see it. We don't recognize it till we get out of our own way and
Mm,
stop the petty and, stop being jerks. And
right.
it's that easy, really. It's not as difficult. When I say there's a higher power that loves you, it is really there. And whenever I talk to someone like you who's so open, such a beautiful soul you have,
Well,
to be
thank you.
that open, it's probably because you went through similar things, I can tell.
Yeah.
Um, then you get it because it doesn't take a lot of struggle. It takes surrender.
Right.
Give up the struggle and accept yourself. Accept
Mm.
yourself as you are.
And that's hard
Um,
too. That's hard too. Just the
it's really
acceptance of
hard.
yourself and loving yourself.
Yes, it's
That's
hard.
such a great point to bring up, you know?
Perfectionism is really not kind. I can't believe how, still to this day, it's like as a woman getting older, we're also worried about how we look. I have to have a filter. I really want to outgrow that and just be there for others in a way that's authentic and present and vulnerable. Share your vulnerability. Because if you're perfect, nobody wants to, I don't want to know anybody who's perfect.
I
They
think
don't
they said,
interest me, you
no,
know?
you're exactly right. And I think they said somewhere, and I could be wrong, but when you're saying share your vulnerability, like one of the most powerful energies I think they say out there is authenticity. Like if
Yes.
you're authentic and you're the real you, like there's a power in that, and people are attracted to that. And
Oh,
people,
wow.
and you from your bio to your story, that's what you're doing. Like that's why it's so fun to talk to you because it's like
Thank
it's
you.
and then when
Thank
you said about perfectionism, and I had to go through my own journey on that, but realizing that that was really a fear of abandonment. I never put those two things together, and so it's like, wow,
you.
I'm trying to be
Oh,
perfect because I don't want to be rejected, and I never put that together
oh,
before,
yes.
it's things like that, and
We just said that. Oh
yeah,
my God. In fact, you know what's really weird? I was beating myself up recently, this year, over not finishing this book sooner because the book has got an artificial deadline anyway. And I've moved the goalposts over and over, and I go, my ego was in the way a year ago when I had to get it done so fast because I go, but then I won't be re-famous sooner enough to get a part in a movie and I go, wait a minute.
right,
What does what does my soul really want? And it
yes.
was a dark night of the soul. It was at a year ago, and I just said, I surrender this. I can't do this on your timetable anymore, on this fake timetable where all the cute, funny chapters are in order. And at that moment, the phone rang, and a woman said, can you speak tomorrow for 200 women in the Palisades? And it was a woman I was jealous of for 20 years ago. She was so perfect, Barbie doll body, stiletto heels. I was always a little jealous of her. And I went, of course I have to speak. You can't say no. I
Yeah.
went to the Palisades. I ran into my first sponsor, who was a movie star. I ran into this woman whom I fell in love with. I shared a comedic version of my story, and they were laughing and clapping. I went, that was very healing. That moment, the next day I was asked to speak again and again, and it's been 55 times since that day. I realized my higher self, which I call the higher power, my higher self, wants me to share the stories out loud and not keep them isolated in a room trying to make it perfect for my
Oh,
ego to somehow get something later. It's very, it's just an ego smashing proposition, living life and helping others. Just get out of yourself and go help someone else. You know, if you do
totally.
volunteer work, if you're broke and you start delivering Meals on Wheels, you'll never have a broken down car.
There you go.
That car will somehow have gas in it. If you really, the more you help others, the more you are helped.
It's such a great point. Getting out of yourself and getting out of the ego. But in this day and age, it's so easy to stay in that ego because we've got, it just is. And to your point, it's when you
I
get
don't
out of
know.
these
I
things.
find myself crying a lot I have a lot more empathy than I ever had before just for people that are suffering. And I think the gift is that I suffered, but I don't think I had this much empathy even a few years ago. Somehow
Really?
it's grown. Yeah, yeah, more than ever now.
That's interesting.
Like, well, because still, it's layers of ego shedding. It's layers of shaving the onion
Oh,
peel,
yeah.
peeling the layers of the onion. I think it's just life is supposed to be a learning process. We don't come into this life fully
Right.
formed, knowing everything.
Right.
The fun, if you can adopt a sense of wonder. I
Mm.
always say when I got sober, when I had my crash and burn and my awakening, it gave me a childlike spirit again, the childlike spirit of wonder. Everything's exciting to me, everything.
New
Butterflies.
discoveries, new
I had
areas
a
of life.
magical thing with butterflies lately. It's crazy. You know, if someone comes to my door and it's a butterfly, I say, wait, I gotta go see where the butterfly's going. It's
I
really nerdy.
thank you for being here and taking your time. You're speaking, you're amazing. And I just hope nothing but continued success on a remarkable career. And I hope we get a chance to touch base again down the road with new projects and keeping us abreast of all that. And this today was truly a gift. And as a fan and a friend, thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. Love you too.